This is what happens when you shadow a NATO exercise and get caught red-handed. On May 29, 2025, early morning, the North Atlantic's calm surface doesn't show it, but beneath that stillness, something tense is unfolding. Off the coast of the Outer Hebrides, a shadow moves. No AIS signal, no public call sign. Just the cold echo of radar returns into familiar hull silhouette. The Royal Navy's HMS Dragon spots her first. Sleek, grey, and loitering just beyond the edge of British territorial waters. The name? The Yuri Ivanov, a Russian spy ship. An AGI built for one job: electronic surveillance and signal interception. And she's not here for sightseeing. She showed up just days after NATO's largest air defense drill, Formidable Shield, wrapped up nearby. And now she's hanging around the UK's waters like she's waiting to pick up leftovers. But HMS Dragon isn't letting her out of her sight. From the bridge to the Combat Information Center, the mood shifts. This isn't a drill. This is a real-world intercept. And what happens next will show you just how seriously the UK takes intrusions this close to home. And the question is, how close did this Russian ship get before it was forced to leave? The Royal Navy didn't flinch. From the moment the Yuri Ivanov was confirmed on radar, HMS Dragon adjusted course. Slowly, deliberately, like a predator circling its prey. No alarms, no flashy maneuvers, just quiet tension and a shift in posture. Inside the Combat Information Center, the operator's voice stayed calm. Surface contact, bearing 302, speed minimal, loitering pattern. Confirmed, non-NATO vessel. The duty officer nodded once. Everyone knew what that meant. The ship had been loitering for hours, barely moving, drifting slowly along the edge of the UK's exclusive economic zone. But the pattern was clear. This wasn't navigation, this was surveillance. From the Dragon's bridge, binoculars locked in on the ship's hull markings. No mistaking it now. White Cyrillic letters across a blue band. Yuri Ivanov, one of Russia's most advanced intelligence-gathering ships. And its timing? Suspiciously perfect. Just 72 hours earlier, that exact patch of sea had hosted simulated missile launches, radar calibration drills, and NATO-wide communications during exercise Formidable Shield. NATO warships, including US destroyers, had transmitted sensitive radar and comms traffic across this maritime corridor. If the Yuri Ivanov had been listening, she'd picked up a gold mine. And now, she was sitting there like nothing happened. That's where HMS Dragon came in. Armed with Sea Viper air defense systems and one of the most advanced radar suites afloat, the Type 45 destroyer didn't just observe, it acted. Dragon closed distance, not to confront, but to monitor. The goal wasn't to spark a standoff, it was to signal, "We see you, we're watching." But it didn't stop there. At 09:15, the Merlin Mk2 helicopter lifted off Dragon's flight deck. Its mission was simple: aerial reconnaissance. From above, the Merlin began wide orbit around the Russian vessel, recording footage, scanning EM emissions, and listening for anything unusual. Back on deck, electronic warfare teams fired up passive listening gear. They weren't just tracking radar, they were eavesdropping on the frequencies Yuri Ivanov might be using to beam data back home. Visual confirmation? Check. Electromagnetic footprint? Logged. Movement pattern? Still inactive. And yet, the tension on board never dropped. Because the longer the Ivanov stayed in those waters, the more it risked violating not just military boundaries but diplomatic ones. The Royal Navy's orders were clear. Persistent monitoring, escalation only if provoked. And Yuri Ivanov? She kept her distance. Barely. But here's where things got strange. Despite the obvious surveillance, the Russian crew didn't respond to VHF hails. No verbal contact. No navigational intentions shared. Just silence. Was this psychological warfare? A routine signal intelligence run? Or something testing the UK's response time? Either way, HMS Dragon wasn't backing off. For over 24 hours, the destroyer maintained radar and visual contact. It mirrored every move the Ivanov made, watched every turn of her propellers. And then, just as quietly as it had arrived, the Russian ship turned north, heading towards Arctic waters. No confrontation, no flare-up. But make no mistake, it wasn't a retreat. It was reconnaissance. And it left the Royal Navy asking itself a chilling question. What exactly had the Yuri Ivanov recorded before slipping away? She's not flashy, but she doesn't have to be. HMS Dragon is one of 6 Type 45 Daring-class destroyers, the crown jewels of Britain's surface fleet, purpose-built for air defense. Dragon's real superpower is making the sky a very dangerous place for anyone with bad intentions. At the heart of it all is Sea Viper, a combat system that links the ship's radars, missiles, and decision-making software into a near-instantaneous kill chain. It uses the Samson radar, that spinning ball atop the mast, to track over 1,000 targets simultaneously. From sea-skimming missiles to aircraft 250 miles away, nothing sneaks past. Sea Viper launches Aster 15 and Aster 30 missiles, capable of intercepting targets at supersonic speeds. But HMS Dragon isn't just a floating missile battery. She's an electronic fortress. In recent upgrades, Dragon was fitted with electronic warfare suites, systems that can detect, disrupt, or deceive radar and communication signals. Perfect for an encounter like this, where watching is more important than firing. Her crew? Around 190 sailors, specialists in navigation, weapon systems, and intelligence gathering. And when the Russian ship appeared, every department knew their job. And then there's the wild card, the Merlin Mk2 helicopter. This isn't some basic eye in the sky. The Merlin is loaded with surface search radar, sonar buoys, electronic sensors, and even anti-submarine torpedoes. When Dragon launched her bird that morning, it instantly expanded the ship's awareness radius by 100 miles. Put simply, HMS Dragon wasn't just tracking Yuri Ivanov. She was recording, analyzing, and preparing. And the target wasn't just some rust bucket. If Dragon is the sword, Yuri Ivanov is the scalpel. She's an AGI vessel, Auxiliary General Intelligence, part of Russia's modern signal intelligence fleet. Operated by the Russian Navy's main directorate of deep sea research, her job is quiet, persistent data collection. The kind you don't see until it's too late. The Yuri Ivanov-class ships are equipped with signal intelligence arrays, tools that can intercept radar pulses, radio chatter, satellite transmissions, and even encrypted military comms. She doesn't need to enter restricted waters. She just needs to be close enough to listen. And on May 29th, she got very close. Her presence immediately raised red flags because of one critical detail: timing. She arrived shortly after Formidable Shield, a massive NATO exercise involving live missile launches and advanced targeting drills. The exercise spanned UK, US, German, and Dutch forces, all operating sensitive technology. A SIGINT vessel loitering nearby? That's not a coincidence. That's a deliberate intelligence harvest. The Yuri Ivanov is designed to sit just outside of legal boundaries and record everything. Radar waveforms, missile telemetry, encrypted signals bouncing between ships and aircraft. If even a portion of that was captured, it could be reverse engineered to help Russia jam or spoof NATO systems in the future. So when HMS Dragon locked eyes with her, it wasn't just a polite maritime escort. It was counterintelligence in motion. The encounter wasn't a shootout, it was a chess move. One ship watching, one ship being watched. And somewhere in the middle, a silent war of signals and sensors. This stretch of ocean is where transatlantic fiber optic cables dive deep beneath the surface, carrying the majority of Europe's internet, banking, and classified military data. It's also the maritime gateway to Faslane Naval Base, home of the UK's Trident-armed Vanguard-class submarines, the backbone of Britain's nuclear deterrent. Now, imagine a foreign spy ship sitting just offshore. Think it's still routine? What made the timing even more alarming was that the Yuri Ivanov showed up immediately after Formidable Shield 2025, a NATO exercise specifically designed to test joint air and missile defense capabilities. That means F-35s, Aegis destroyers, missile tracking software, encrypted command relays, all tested in live fire conditions just days earlier. And right after that, a Russian AGI ship arrives at the edge of UK waters. Coincidence? Not a chance. It was a textbook opportunity window. Right after NATO reveals new systems, right before allies wrap up and go silent again, any lingering electromagnetic signatures, misconfigured encryption, or leftover comms traffic, that's what the Yuri Ivanov was there to sniff out. But it's not just about data, it's about geography. This region marks a critical naval bottleneck. Russian submarines from Murmansk or Severomorsk in the Barents Sea must pass through here to reach the North Atlantic. And NATO? Believe me, they watch that corridor like hawks. Because if you lose track of a sub in this region, you don't find it again until it's somewhere off New York. That's why every inch of water between the Shetlands, Hebrides, and Iceland is blanketed in sonar arrays, seabed sensors, undersea cable taps, and NATO patrol routes. And it's also why Russia's been increasing its activity here for years. Since the 2014 annexation of Crimea, Moscow has invested heavily in asymmetric naval operations. Not just traditional warships, but covert intelligence missions, cable sabotage, and untraceable drone subs. In 2021, a Russian vessel was accused of mapping undersea infrastructure near Norway. In 2022, the Nord Stream pipeline was damaged. No one claimed responsibilities, the fingers pointed east. Now, in 2025, the pattern continues, except the theater has shifted closer to home. The UK's Ministry of Defence recently confirmed that multiple unknown underwater contacts have been detected near Scotland's west coast in the past 18 months. Were they subs? Drone vehicles? Signal taps? They didn't say. But with Yuri Ivanov showing up right after NATO's biggest defense drill, the writing was on the wall. This isn't a Cold War. This is a low-intensity pressure campaign. One that plays out in silence, with hydrophones and antennas instead of missiles. And the Royal Navy's job? Stay visible, send a message. HMS Dragon's presence wasn't just surveillance, it was a deterrent maneuver. In strategic terms, it was saying, we see what you're doing, and if you get 1 inch closer, you won't be alone. It's a delicate dance. Push too hard, and it's escalation. Back off, and it's exploitation. But in 2025, with Russia looking for leverage and NATO reinforcing its perimeter, this slice of cold ocean has become one of the hottest flashpoints in Europe. And that Russian ship? It wasn't there by accident. It was there because this sea, this moment, and this silence was valuable. This wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last. Since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, the Royal Navy has dealt with a steady uptick in what it calls non-routine activity in and around British waters. But let's call it what it really is. Provocation by design. Back in 2021, a pair of Russian warships, including the Admiral Grigorovich, was spotted just outside the English Channel. Close enough to raise alarms, but far enough to stay within international law. The Royal Navy scrambled HMS Richmond and HMS Kent in response. That same year, British sonar operators detected unusual acoustic signatures near vital communications cables in the North Sea. No confirmation, but suspicions pointed squarely toward deep-diving Russian drones. The war in Ukraine shifted Moscow's focus, but while the world's cameras turned to tanks and trench warfare, the Russian Navy turned to something more subtle: surveillance, shadowing, and sabotage. Their naval footprint increased in the Arctic and the North Atlantic. Frigates transited through the Irish Sea. Russian subs were caught tailing NATO exercises. One British defense analyst called it a gray zone pressure operation, designed to probe, confuse, and exhaust without triggering a formal military response. Fast forward to 2024. A Staragushi-class corvette, the RFS Stoichi, was caught escorting Russian-flagged cargo ships through the English Channel. The vessels claimed to be commercial, but their route? Suspicious. Their movement? Military in nature. HMS Ledbury and HMS Herworth, two mine hunters, were deployed to track them along with maritime patrol aircraft. Then came May 2025. Yuri Ivanov, a top-tier Russian intelligence ship, suddenly loitering off the UK's west coast after a major NATO exercise. Russia isn't trying to win a naval war, it's trying to erode readiness, sow doubt, and collect just enough intelligence to tip the balance in a crisis. You don't need to invade a coastline if you can just jam its radar first. You don't need to fire torpedoes if you know when a carrier leaves port. And you don't need submarines everywhere, just in the right places, at the right time. Crews aboard Royal Navy vessels like HMS Dragon are trained for this new reality. Every sonar ping could be a decoy. Every AIS silent vessel could be a drone mothership. Every satellite pass could trigger an instant shift to signal silence. That's why incidents like the Yuri Ivanov intercept aren't just about sovereignty, they're about preparation, about showing that NATO isn't asleep. Because the ultimate danger here isn't the spy ship itself, it's what the silence means. These AGI missions are dry runs, recon plays, and if a real conflict ever flares up, say in the Baltics or the Black Sea, Russia would already know which signals to spoof, which ports to watch, and which comm nodes to cut first. And they'll have gathered this intel not in wartime but in peace, like they did last week. So when HMS Dragon shadowed Yuri Ivanov, it wasn't just about a naval escort, it was a signal back. A quiet message from across the waves. We're ready, don't try it. And while the Russian ship eventually turned north toward the Arctic, the tensions didn't leave with it. It simply moved. Because right now, the UK and NATO as a whole is facing a new kind of naval confrontation. One where the enemy doesn't always fire. One where warships double as listening posts. And one where the side that hears first wins. They didn't fire a shot, but the message was loud and clear. From the Merlin helicopter's wide orbits to HMS Dragon's electronic countermeasures and persistent shadowing, this was a textbook case of naval counterintelligence in motion. The fact that it played out in calm seas under peacetime rules only made it more impressive. Because in modern warfare, the absence of conflict doesn't mean the absence of danger. The real takeaway here isn't just that the Russian vessel turned away. It was what it may have left with. Because in 2025, data isn't just information, it's ammunition. And that brings us to a question for you. What do you think Yuri Ivanov was really doing off the coast of the UK? Was it pure surveillance? Or a deeper test of NATO's response time and readiness? Let us know what you think in the comments. The chessboard is changing, and every move counts. HMS Dragon did her job. But the next time, the game might not stay quiet. If you found this story insightful, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive breakdowns of modern naval operations and near-miss flashpoints. And if you want to go a step further and support the channel directly, join the fleet. You get loyalty badges, priority responses, and you help us bring more true maritime stories to the surface. Click join on our channel page and get on board. Thanks for watching, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next one.